helped an old man cross the street in front of a hotel. He whispered, "This suite is yours for the night." You thought he was confused, maybe dementia, maybe just grateful. You smiled politely and continued walking, but something in his eyes stopped you cold. He wasn't confused at all. "Room 1247, he said again, pressing a golden key into your palm. "Everything has already been arranged." With the weight of that key felt impossible. Hotels don't use keys like this anymore, not real ones, not golden ones that seem to pulse with their own warmth. You looked back, but the old man was gone, not walking away, not around the corner, gone, like he never existed at all. The hotel towered above you, the Grandmore. You'd passed it 1,000 times, always wondering what kind of people could afford to stay there. Now you held a key to one of its rooms. What would you do? Walk away? Call it a strange encounter and forget it ever happened? Or would you step through those doors and see where this impossible moment might lead? You know what curiosity does to cats, but you're not a cat. You're human. And humans are built for wonder. The lobby smelled like old money and fresh roses, the kind of place where your shoes echo wrong, where your clothes suddenly feel cheaper than they are. But that key in your pocket, it belonged here. "Good evening," the concierge said, as if he'd been expecting you. "Room 1247. The elevator is to your right." How did he know? You hadn't shown him the key. You hadn't said a word, but his smile suggested this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. The elevator climbed higher than you thought the building went, past the penthouses, past the rooftop bar you'd read about in magazines. When the doors finally opened, there was only one door, one room, and your key was already glowing. Inside, the suite defied physics. It was larger than should be possible, with windows showing a view of the city that couldn't exist from this angle. But none of that mattered compared to what was waiting on the table, a leather journal. Your name embossed in gold on the cover. Inside, the first page had only one line. "Every act of kindness creates a door. You just walked through yours." You've heard of karma. You've heard of paying it forward, but this was something else entirely. This was the universe keeping score in ways you never imagined possible. The journal's pages were filled with entries, each one describing a moment when you chose kindness over convenience. The time you gave your umbrella to a stranger in the rain, the morning you bought coffee for the person behind you, the day you stopped to help someone change a tire. Small acts, forgotten moments, but apparently someone had been watching, someone had been counting. Have you ever wondered if your good deeds mattered? If anyone noticed when you chose to be decent in an indecent world? Here was your answer, written in ink that seemed to shift and shimmer as you read. "Welcome to the network," the next page read. "You've earned your place among those who understand the true currency of humanity." What network? What currency? You turned the page, heart racing, afraid to know but unable to stop reading. The old man's photo stared back at you, but he wasn't old in this picture. He was young, vibrant, standing in this very room. The caption below made your blood run cold. Harold Winters, inducted 1953, saved from drowning by a stranger who asked for nothing in return. More photos, more stories, a web of connections spanning decades, maybe centuries. Each person helped by another, each act of kindness creating another link in an invisible chain. But here's what made you reach for the nearest chair. Your photo was already there. Today's date. Helped Harold Winters cross the street. Final test passed. If this makes you want to understand more about the hidden connections between us all, like this video and subscribe. Share your own story of unexpected kindness in the comments below. The room had more secrets to reveal. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a screen that shouldn't exist with technology that hadn't been invented. On it, a map of the city, thousands of golden dots pulsing like heartbeats. Each dot, the screen explained, was a member of the network. People who had proven themselves through consistent acts of kindness. people who understood that the smallest gesture could change a life. You touched your own dot and gasped. Lines spread out from it like a spider's web, connecting to dozens of other lights. Each line represented someone you'd helped. But more shocking, lines coming into your dot. People who had helped you. That job interview where the receptionist went out of her way to calm your nerves. She was in the network. The mechanic who fixed your car for free when you were broke. Network. The teacher who stayed after school to help you understand algebra. Network. Your whole life you'd been surrounded by angels in disguise. Guardian angels who looked like ordinary people but were anything but ordinary. "We find each other," a voice said behind you. You spun around to find Harold standing there, looking exactly as he had on the street. Old, frail, needing help. That's how it works. We test each other. We help each other. We prove that humanity isn't lost. But why the elaborate test? Why the mysterious hotel room? Why not just tell people to be kind? Harold's laugh was sad and knowing. Because talk is cheap. Everyone says they want to help others. Everyone posts about kindness on social media, but when the moment comes, when it's inconvenient, when no one's watching, that's when we learn who people really are. You thought about all the people who had walked past while you helped Harold. Busy people, important people, people with somewhere to be. You hadn't judged them then, but now you wondered, how many tests do we fail every single day? The network has existed for centuries, Harold continued. We've prevented wars by putting the right person in the right place. We've saved lives by ensuring someone missed their train. We've changed history with nothing more than small acts of human decency. It sounded impossible. It sounded like a conspiracy theory wrapped in a fairy tale. But the evidence was right there, glowing on screens that shouldn't exist, in a room that defied the laws of physics. What happens now? You asked, though part of you already knew the answer. Now, Harold said, you have a choice. You can walk out of this room and forget everything. The memory will fade like a dream. You'll remember helping an old man cross the street, nothing more. Your life will continue exactly as it was, or you become one of us. You join the network actively. You'll see opportunities others miss. You'll be guided to where you're needed most. And sometimes, just sometimes, you'll be the test for someone else. Think about that for a moment. Every person you meet could be a test. Every moment of frustration, every inconvenience, every person who needs just a minute of your time. What if they're all opportunities? What if the universe is constantly offering you chances to prove who you really are? Harold showed you more of the room's secrets, drawers filled with stories of network members throughout history. A nurse who stayed past her shift and saved a child who would grow up to cure a disease. A businessman who gave up his taxi to a stranger and missed a meeting in a building that collapsed. A teacher who tutored a struggling student who became a leader that prevented a war. None of them knew the future they were creating. They just knew that in that moment, kindness was the right choice. We don't do it for rewards, Harold explained. This room, this reveal, it happens only once. After tonight, you'll return to your normal life, but you'll carry the knowledge that every action matters. Every choice creates ripples. The screen showed something new now, a young woman struggling with grocery bags in the rain. Tomorrow, 3:47 p.m., outside the Morrison Street subway station. If you choose to accept your place in the network, you'll feel compelled to be there, to help, to continue the chain. But here's what Harold didn't tell you, what you had to discover for yourself. The woman with the grocery bags, she was considering ending her life. That small act of help, that moment of human connection would remind her that kindness still exists, that strangers still care, that maybe, just maybe, life was worth living after all. You wouldn't know this tomorrow. You might never know it. That's the beauty and the burden of the network. You act without knowing the full impact. You trust that kindness matters even when you can't see how. I need to think, you said, and Harold nodded. You have until sunrise. The room will remain yours until then. Whatever you decide, know this. You've already proven yourself. Whether you join us officially or not, you're already part of something bigger. Do you believe that small acts of kindness can change the world? Subscribe to this channel and join a community that celebrates the heroes hidden in plain sight. Share your thoughts below. Alone now, you explored the suite further. Each room revealed new impossibilities, a library containing books about every person you'd ever helped, showing their lives after your paths crossed, a gallery of paintings, each depicting a moment when a network member changed history with a simple act. But it was the mirror that stopped you cold, not because of what it showed, but because of what it didn't. Your reflection was there, but surrounded by ghostly images of all the people you could have helped, but didn't. All the moments you were too busy, too tired, too focused on your own problems. We all have those ghosts, don't we? The homeless person we walked past, the co-worker we didn't have time to listen to, the phone call we didn't return, the mirror didn't judge. It simply showed the truth. Yet next to those ghosts were lights. Brilliant, beautiful lights representing every person you did help, and those lights were connected to other lights, showing how your kindness had spread. One act becoming 10, 10 becoming 100, 100 becoming thousands. The math of kindness is exponential. When you help someone, you don't just change their day, you change how they interact with everyone else they meet. Your kindness becomes their kindness, becomes someone else's kindness, rippling outward in ways you'll never fully see. A journal on the bedside table caught your attention. This one wasn't about you. It was about Harold. You read his story, how a stranger had pulled him from a river when he was just 7 years old, how that moment had defined his entire life, how he'd spent decades paying it forward, saving others in ways both dramatic and mundane. But the last entry was from today. Found the one I've been looking for. The test wasn't about helping me cross the street, it was about what happened after. Most people help and walk away, satisfied they've done their good deed. But this one looked back. This one cared enough to make sure I was truly safe. That's the difference between performing kindness and living it. You realized then that the test had layers you hadn't understood. It wasn't just about the initial act, it was about genuine care. About seeing people, really seeing them, not just checking off a box marked, "Good deed done." How many times do we help just enough to feel good about ourselves? How often do we do the minimum and call it kindness? The network wasn't looking for performers. They were looking for people who understood that true kindness doesn't have a finish line. You walked to the window, looking out at the impossible view of the city. Somewhere out there, millions of people were living their lives, unaware of the invisible network connecting those who chose kindness. Unaware that their smallest actions could change everything. The clock on the wall showed time differently here. Instead of hours, it showed moments, moments of potential kindness happening across the city right now. A mother struggling with a stroller on stairs, a teenager crying alone at a bus stop, an elderly person fumbling with technology at a library. Each moment lasted only seconds before being replaced by another. An endless stream of opportunities for human connection, most of them passing unnoticed, unacted upon. Overwhelming, isn't it? Harold had returned, looking younger somehow. When you first see how many chances we miss every day. You couldn't take your eyes off the clock. How do you choose? How do you decide who to help when there's so much need? You don't, he said simply. You just start where you are, the person in front of you, the need you can see. The network doesn't require grand gestures, it requires consistency. Show up. Pay attention, act when you can. He told you stories of network members throughout history, not the famous humanitarians whose names we know, but the invisible ones. The stable boy who was kind to a young girl who grew up to be Queen Victoria, the secretary who encouraged a dejected writer named Stephen King to keep submitting his manuscript, the janitor who noticed a gas leak at a children's hospital. "History books write about kings and presidents," Harold said. "But history is actually written by the person who holds the door, who shares their lunch, who takes 5 minutes to listen. We are the punctuation marks in the great story of humanity. The commas that let people pause and catch their breath, the periods that help them rest, the exclamation points that remind them joy exists. What punctuation mark are you? When people encounter you, do they find a question mark that makes them think? A period that provides closure? Or are you an ellipsis, leaving things unfinished?" The room began showing you something new, not past acts of kindness, but future possibilities, chains of events that could unfold from simple actions. Help someone carry groceries, and they arrive home in time to take a phone call that changes their life. Give up your seat on the bus, and someone makes it to a job interview that lifts their family out of poverty. But it showed the darker possibilities too, the cascading effects of unkindness, how rudeness spreads like a virus. How one person's bad day can become 10 people's bad day, can become 100 people's bad day. The network existed to tip the balance, to ensure kindness had fighters in its corner. "We're not asking you to be perfect," Harold clarified. "Network members have bad days too. We get tired, frustrated, selfish. The difference is we try to reset. We remember that every interaction is a chance to add light or darkness to the world. You thought about your own life, the times when someone's unexpected kindness had saved you, not from drowning or disasters, but from despair, from giving up, from believing the world was only cruelty and indifference. As midnight approached, the suite revealed its final secret. A room filled with letters, millions of them floating in the air like snow. Each one a thank you note that was never sent, words of gratitude people thought but never said. You could reach out and touch them, read the messages people wish they could have delivered. To the woman who smiled at me on the worst day of my life. To the man who helped me pick up my scattered papers in the wind. To the teenager who gave me their seat when my legs were failing. This was the true currency of the network. Not gold or recognition, but these unspoken thank yous. The gratitude that lived in hearts, even if it never reached lips. Among the letters, you found ones addressed to you, from people whose names you'd never known. The child you'd helped reach a book on a high shelf, who wrote, "You made me feel like I mattered." The harried parent you'd let go ahead in line, who wrote, "You gave me the 3 minutes I needed to stay sane." The elderly person you'd helped with groceries who wrote, "You reminded me that I'm still visible." When was the last time you thanked someone for a small kindness? We're quick to complain when things go wrong, but slow to acknowledge when someone makes things right. What if we changed that? What if gratitude became as reflexive as criticism? Harold showed you one final thing, a simple wooden box containing seeds. Every network member receives these. Plant them or not, the choice is yours. But know this, they only grow when watered with acts of kindness. Skip a day of helping others, and they wither, but tend them properly. He opened his hand to show a small, glowing flower. Impossible, beautiful, and absolutely real. They bloom into something science can't explain, a living reminder that kindness creates things that shouldn't exist. Like this room, like this night, like the connections between us all. Oh, the clock was ticking toward decision time. Join the network officially or return to your life with just the memory of a strange dream. But you were beginning to understand that the choice was false. Whether you said yes or no, you'd already been changed. You'd seen behind the curtain. You knew now that every action mattered. "Can I ask you something?" you said to Harold. "Do you ever regret joining?" His smile was sad and beautiful. "I regret every kindness I didn't do, but I've never regretted a single one I did, even when it cost me, even when no one noticed, because I know now what I didn't know then. Someone always notices. Maybe not the person you helped, maybe not anyone visible, but the universe keeps score. If this story is making you reconsider how you move through the world, subscribe now and join thousands who are choosing to see opportunities for kindness everywhere. Your story matters. Share it in the comments below. You need to understand something about that night. Time moved differently in that room. While hours passed inside, only minutes passed in the real world. The network existed between heartbeats, in the spaces between seconds. That's how they'd operated for so long without detection. Harold began showing you the practical aspects. If you join, you won't have superpowers. You won't suddenly have unlimited resources. What you'll have is awareness. You'll notice things others miss. The person standing at the edge of the subway platform a little too close. The child in the store who's lost but too scared to ask for help. The colleague who's drowning but hiding it behind smiles. And then what? You asked. Then you act. Not dramatically, not like a hero from movies, just human. You ask if someone's okay. You stand a little closer to the person on the platform, just in case. You help the child find their parent. You bring your colleague coffee and listen, really listen. He showed you statistics the world had never seen, how suicide rates dropped in areas with high concentrations of network members, how crime decreased when kindness increased, how entire neighborhoods had been transformed by a critical mass of people who simply gave a damn. We're not a charity, Harold emphasized. We don't write checks or build buildings. We build moments, we create connections, we remind people that they're not alone in this world. But there was a warning too. The network had rules. You couldn't reveal its existence. You couldn't use your knowledge for personal gain. You couldn't force kindness on those who didn't want it. And most importantly, you couldn't save everyone. That last rule was the hardest. Once you started seeing all the pain in the world, all the opportunities to help, it could break you. Network members had to learn balance, had to understand that sometimes the kindest thing was knowing your limits. We lost members who burned out, Harold admitted, who gave so much of themselves that there was nothing left. The network isn't about martyrdom. It's about sustainability. Small acts consistently done forever. You walked through the suite one more time, touching objects that shouldn't exist, reading stories that couldn't be true but were. The weight of decision pressed down on you. Not because joining seemed hard, but because not joining now seemed impossible. How could you walk away from this? How could you know that such a thing existed and choose to forget? Even if your memory was wiped, wouldn't some part of you always know, always feel the pull toward kindness without understanding why? What happened to the people who said no? You asked. Harold's expression grew complex. They live good lives, happy lives, many of them, but sometimes I see them pause, see them almost remember, see them help someone and get a confused look, like they're trying to recall something important. The sunrise was coming, decision time. But first, Harold had one more thing to show you. He led you to a window that hadn't been there before. Through it you could see not the city, but moments. Your life, but different. The life you'd live if you'd never helped anyone. It wasn't evil. You weren't a villain in this alternate timeline. You were just less connected, less alive, less aware of the magic that happens when humans remember they're all in this together. You saw yourself succeeding in conventional ways, promotions, possessions, achievements. But you also saw the emptiness, the moments when you'd wonder why everything felt hollow, the success that never quite satisfied because it was built on taking, not giving. That's the real tragedy, Harold said. People think kindness costs them something. They think helping others means having less for themselves. But look at your real life, the one you've actually lived. The window shifted, showing your actual timeline. Same job, same apartment, same struggles. But in this version, you glowed. Not literally, but with connections. Every person you'd helped had left a mark on you, and you on them. You were rich in ways your alternate self couldn't imagine. The network doesn't make your life easier, Harold warned. In some ways it makes it harder. You'll see more pain, feel more responsibility, question yourself more. But you'll also feel more connected to the human experience than most people ever do. You thought about all the times you'd felt alone, all the times you'd wondered if anything you did mattered. Here was proof that it all mattered. Every smile, every helping hand, every moment of choosing others over yourself had woven you into a tapestry of connection that spanned the globe. I need you to understand, Harold continued, that saying yes changes nothing about your daily life. You'll still go to work tomorrow, still pay bills, still face the same challenges. The only difference is awareness, knowing that you're part of something ancient and beautiful. Knowing that your kindness isn't random, it's part of a pattern that's been saving the world one person at a time for centuries. The sun was breaking the horizon now. The room began to shimmer, becoming less solid, more dreamlike. Whatever happened next, this magical night was ending. If I say yes, you asked, how will I know what to do? How will I find the people who need help? Harold smiled. The same way you always have, by paying attention, by being present, by choosing to see people instead of obstacles. The network doesn't assign missions. Life does that already. We just say yes more often. You realized then that you'd already decided, had decided the moment you helped Harold cross the street, maybe had decided years ago with your first act of unconscious kindness. This wasn't really a choice. It was an acknowledgement of who you'd always been. Yes, you said, and the room exploded with light. Not blinding light, but warm, golden light that felt like coming home. The letters of gratitude swirled around you, and for just a moment you could hear the voices of everyone you'd ever helped saying thank you. Harold handed you something, a simple compass, old and worn. This won't point north, he said. It points toward need. Not always, not constantly, but sometimes when someone really needs what only you can give, it will pull just a little. Easy to ignore if you choose. Impossible to forget once you've felt it. The room was fading now, becoming transparent. Through the walls you could see the regular hotel, the normal world reasserting itself, but you were different. You could feel it. Not changed exactly, but more yourself than you'd ever been. What happens now? You asked, as Harold began to fade too. Now you go home. You sleep. You wake up tomorrow and live your life, but you'll notice things. A coworker who needs encouragement, a stranger who needs directions, a child who needs someone to see their drawing, and you'll help. Not because the network requires it, but because that's who you are. Will I see you again? Maybe, maybe not. Network members rarely meet twice. We're spread too thin, covering too much ground, but you'll feel us. In every act of unexpected kindness you witness, you'll know one of us was there. The hotel room was almost gone now. You could see the regular hallway through the fading walls. Soon, this would all feel like a dream, but the compass in your hand was solid, real, warm. One last thing, Harold said, his voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. The old man you helped today? That wasn't me. That was you. You from 40 years in the future. The network exists outside of time in ways we don't fully understand. Every test is also a teaching. Every helper becomes the helped. The circle never ends. Your mind reeled at the implications, but there was no time to process. The room gave one last pulse of golden light, and then you were standing in a normal hotel hallway. Expensive, yes. Luxurious, certainly. But normal. No impossible doors. No floating letters. No Harold. Just you, holding an old compass and the memory of the most extraordinary night of your life. You made your way to the lobby, half expecting someone to stop you, to demand to know what you were doing there. But the night clerk simply nodded and wished you a good evening, as if you belonged there, as if you'd always belonged there. Chapter 11. The walk home was different. Not the streets. They were the same streets you'd always walked, but you were seeing them with network eyes now. The homeless man on the corner wasn't just part of the scenery anymore. The woman waiting for the late bus wasn't just another stranger. They were potential connections, possible stories, chances to add light to the world. You didn't help them. Not tonight. Harold had warned you about that too. The overwhelming urge to help everyone immediately. Pace yourself, he'd said. The network is a marathon, not a sprint. Help when you can, rest when you must. But you saw them, really saw them, and that felt like a beginning. At home, you sat with the compass, watching it spin lazily, not pointing anywhere in particular yet, just waiting. You thought about Harold's revelation and that the old man had been you. Would you remember this night in 40 years? Would you remember being on both sides of the test? The larger implications were staggering. If the network existed outside of time, how many of your past kindnesses had been orchestrated by your future self? How many times had you been helped by people you would someday become? It was too much to comprehend, so you didn't try. You simply held the truth of it, that kindness creates ripples, not just across space, but across time. That every good deed echoes in ways we can't imagine. You pulled out your phone, scrolling through social media, and saw it all differently now. Every angry post was a cry for connection. Every boast was insecurity seeking validation. Every shared meme was someone trying to bring joy to others. Humanity, in all its messy digital glory, just trying to matter to each other. Tomorrow you'd go to work, you'd sit in meetings, you'd eat lunch, you'd commute home. But you'd do it all knowing that you were part of an invisible army of kindness. That around the world, in every city and town, others were carrying their own compasses, following their own pulls toward human connection. You thought about the woman with the groceries. Tomorrow, 3:47 p.m., Morrison Street subway station. You didn't need the compass for that one. You'd already memorized it. Already decided to be there, not to save her life, though you now knew you would, but simply to help her carry her bags, to remind her that kindness existed, because that's what the network really was, not a secret society. Not a mystical organization, just humans reminding other humans that we're all in this together, that despite everything, despite cruelty and indifference and the 1,000 ways we fail each other, kindness persists. Some people would call it naive, unrealistic. They'd point to war and poverty and injustice and say kindness wasn't enough. And they'd be right. Kindness alone couldn't solve everything, but kindness was the beginning, the foundation, the thing that made everything else possible. Without it, all the policies and programs and revolutions in the world meant nothing. With it, even the smallest gesture could change everything. Chapter 12. So here's what you need to know. You reading this right now. You don't need a magical hotel room or an impossible compass to join the network. It's not about being chosen. It's about choosing. Every day, you walk past opportunities to matter to someone. Every day, you have the chance to be the reason someone believes in humanity again. Every day, you can add to the light or the darkness in the world. What will you choose? The network isn't fiction. It's not a story. It's happening right now in every coffee shop where someone pays for a stranger's drink, in every parking lot where someone returns a cart that isn't theirs, in every moment when someone chooses connection over comfort. You've felt it. Those times when a stranger's kindness hit you exactly when you needed it, when someone saw you struggling and helped without being asked. When the world felt cold and someone reminded you that warmth existed, that was the network. And now you know that every action creates ripples. You know that kindness is contagious. You know that somewhere people are keeping score, not for judgment, but for hope, counting the lights to make sure they still outnumber the darkness. So what happens next? That's up to you. You can close this screen and forget. Go back to seeing strangers as obstacles and kindness as weakness. Go back to the lie that you don't matter, that your actions don't count, that you're too small to make a difference. Or you can join us. Not officially, There's no sign-up sheet, no membership card, just the decision to see opportunities instead of interruptions, to help when you can, to be the reason someone else keeps going. The old man you'll help someday is waiting. The child who needs encouragement is waiting. The stranger who's one kindness away from choosing life is waiting. They don't know they're waiting. They don't know you're coming. But the universe does. The network does. And now, so do you. Look around. The person next to you might be struggling. The cashier might need a smile. The delivery driver might need patience. These aren't grand gestures. They're barely gestures at all. But they matter. They've always mattered. Welcome to the network. You've actually been a member all along. We were just waiting for you to realize it. Now go. Live your life, but live it knowing that you're part of something beautiful, something ancient, something that saves the world one small act at a time. The compass is already in your heart. It's been pointing the way your whole life. All you have to do is follow it. And when the day comes that you see someone help an old man cross the street in front of a hotel, someone who looks back to make sure he's safe, someone who cares just a little more than necessary, you'll know. You'll know you're looking at the next member of the network, the next person to discover that kindness isn't just nice, it's necessary. It's how we survive. It's how we thrive. It's how we prove that despite everything, humans are worth saving. One person at a time, one act at a time, one choice at a time. Starting with yours, starting right now. What will you choose? Like this video if you believe in the power of small acts to change lives. Subscribe to join a community that celebrates everyday heroes and share your own story of unexpected kindness in the comments below. This channel is for those who believe that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe, for those who know that every action matters, for those who choose to be part of the network, whether they call it that or not. Welcome home.